Unity consciousness, the intelligent, divine, creative energy that threads the universe together, in my opinion, is love.
We're so conditioned that love is this fleeting feeling. Sometimes you have it, sometimes you don't. It's like this interstitial connective tissue of the universe.
If love is foundational, if love is the thread that weaves everything together in the universe, then it is the thing that exists unconditionally.
But ultimately, the most important relationship is the relationship that I have with myself.
Most of us will find ourselves in multiple, if not all of these dynamics between like trauma bond, karmic relationship, soulmate, twin flames. Like we'll find ourselves questioning, like, is that this or is it this?
Welcome to SoulPod, where science meets mysticism and your inner wisdom leads the way. Welcome back, light beings. We are going to dive into all things love today. So for all of you lovers out there, this is your episode. We're going to get into it. We're going to talk about karma, karmic relationships, twin flames, which we have not talked about on the show before. So I'm really excited for this special episode this week in the spirit of Valentine's Day. However love is showing up for you is perfect. And we're going to get into the nuances of that, of love. I have no doubt, given our podcast and Kat Mansfield joining us again. Welcome, Kat.
Hello, I'm excited. I love love.
I love love. It is quite literally the best. So maybe to like kick things off, I know we have talked a little bit about this on the podcast before, but what's your definition of love, Kat?
Ooh, kick us off with an easy one. Yeah, unity consciousness, the intelligent, divine, creative energy that threads the universe together, in my opinion, is love. And my felt experience is love. And love feels synonymous with truth. Love feels synonymous with highest self. We recently released a podcast on this and it really, or excuse me, a Substack on this. And it really had me reorienting around a lot of the ways that we've been programmed to perceive love as simply a feeling, or I also grew up love as an action. And zooming even further out from that, if love is a feeling, it's conditional. It's dependent on whatever thought process, whatever thought cycle is creating whatever emotion in our body. So it's conditional on the context of our mind. Whereas if love is foundational, if love is the thread that weaves everything together in the universe, then it is the thing that exists unconditionally. It's a thing that we have access to, we can entrain with, no matter the external circumstances, but no matter whatever internal world our own mind is creating at any given moment. So yeah, that's kind of how I think about it. And it's one of those things that's also hard to articulate. How would you describe it?
I mean, I think you nailed it. I think that's a great working definition of love. Yeah, I think the most important thing, and we talk about this quite a bit because it's so important, is we're so conditioned, like you said, that love is this fleeting feeling. Sometimes you have it, sometimes you don't. That it's only an emotional experience. And I've been feeling this way for a while, which is that we almost need another word. Because I think what we're pointing to is this cosmic essence and foundation of love. And at the same time, it's also the perfect word, because when you experience it as an emotion, it's almost like the lower register of the truth, which is that when you recognize yourself in another and they recognize themselves in you, that is this kind of lowest denominator, but incredibly powerful and juicy and lovely denominator of what love is at its at its most like human. But then
Mhm.
if we expand our consciousness, and we talk a lot about the funnel of consciousness here, as you open that aperture, you start to realize that love is the recognition of oneness in all,
Mm.
not just in another person. It's
Mhm.
recognizing that life itself is you.
Mhm.
It's like this interstitial connective tissue of the
Mhm.
universe.
Mhm.
And it makes me think about Interstellar because I think they got the closest to it. This concept of love like a gravity,
Mm.
but there's a little bit missing there. And I'm not saying I have it all figured out here, but the reason that love is this kind of like gravity is because, like you're saying, it's the truth
Mm.
that we are all
Mhm.
connected, that this side of the universe is connected to the other side of the universe, that we all came from this single source, physically, metaphysically, spiritually, consciousness. Like it is all, and this is what all spiritual traditions talk about. It is all one. We've just forgotten that truth. And so love is the act of remembering that truth in my
Mm.
mind. And so, to your point, I think it's absolutely foundational. So, if there's anything that you take away from today's episode, I think it could be that this week that has been designed commercially as a moment of celebrating relationships, romantic relationships, you can also celebrate your connection to your life. How much of love, how much of that recognition of oneness on all levels are you able to perceive and welcome and recognize and remember?
Mhm.
And that can really redefine what Valentine's Day is for, or this week is for, or this month is for. It can be so much bigger than the relational aspect. But
Right.
we are also going to talk about the relational aspect.
Yeah, such a beautiful articulation of that, and I think you're right. I think Valentine's Day and the the manufacturing of it in our capitalistic society has also become a trap to perceive all the places that love is missing in your life. Like
Mm,
if you find yourself single on Valentine's Day, how many people have fallen victim to the spiral of like, I'm alone, what's wrong with me? And
yeah,
as we're
I've
saying,
totally been there too.
totally same. So many years I spent Valentine's Day single, and it took me a long time to get to the place where I could celebrate that and reorient around to our exact discussion, that reorient around every moment of interaction, every moment of existence, of how am I relating to love as a foundational through thread in this moment, to myself, to the person I'm interacting with on the sidewalk, to this tree that's in my field at the moment. Like how am I choosing to entrain with love despite any external circumstance, despite being single, partnered, going through a separation, like whatever is going on, there's always love available for us to choose at any moment.
Mm, so much more empowering.
Mhm.
And it almost like it not almost, it does. It releases you from the shackles of capitalism
Mhm.
if you look at it that way. So I really do think that's like a next level approach to this time. And
Mhm.
it just feels so much better.
So much more liberating. It's
Yeah,
not
liberating. That's the
Yeah,
word.
your peace and your ability to choose love is not dependent on anything or anyone.
No. No, and ultimately, I mean, we're going to talk about relationships here for sure,
Mhm.
but ultimately the most important relationship, even outside of my marriage, is the relationship that I have with myself.
Mhm. Mhm.
Like that is it.
Mhm.
That's the most important. Hmm, I struggle because there's maybe another word than relationship, but it is the most important relationship of your entire life.
Mm-hmm.
That's who you're with when you die. That's who you're with when you came into this world.
Mm-hmm.
And to develop a really beautiful inner relationship is, I think, the most power that you could bring to this lifetime is in developing that relationship. And there's so much that goes into the inner relationship. It's the understanding of your ego. It's compassion towards yourself in your high moments and your low moments, the totality of self. It's starting to make contact with other elements of the self, your highest self, your soul, all those different apertures of self. And that's such a rich, powerful, never-ending exploration and relationship to spend time on. And that's why, bringing it back to SoulPod vibes, that's why that morning practice is so important, because you're starting off your day and you're saying to yourself, this is what's important.
Mm-hmm.
The relationship, the conversation, the thoughts, the beliefs, the emotions. You're giving that space to be heard, to be experienced, to be remembered, to be alchemized and transformed, to allow for change in that relationship. And so from that perspective, I mean, that's why my morning experience, meditation, breathwork, all that is non-negotiable. Because if I don't have that relationship figured out, I can tell you the relationships in your life are going to be, they're going to reflect back to you the limitations that you have in relation to yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
And maybe, yeah, go ahead.
No, I agree with that wholeheartedly. And I think it's funny. Like, I think so much of our culture puts so much emphasis on being partnered, on like finding your person. And we're going to dive into
Overrated.
twin flame soulmates.
I mean, love
karmic
my husband. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's almost like paradoxical, because all of these romantic relationships are really just a tool to come deeper into union with self. And so if we're ever outsourcing that to a partner, like it's inevitable that it will not be, what Hallmark has told us it's going to be, because it's really just a pathway to come home to self. Like, I remember when I called in my husband, when I was close, I knew it, because I was like, I have done all of the work that I can possibly do by myself, like in my own practice, to really embody this deep sense of self-love and connection to self. I knew I'd reached a like stagnancy alone. So that's how I knew like a partner, and a serious partner, was close, because it's just a portal to further explore my own relationship to self.
I love that. Yeah. Relationships as a mirror, as another way to do the work, another way to understand yourself, because at a really meta level, just two married ladies talking here, but at a really meta level, they are you, right? You're just, it's the same consciousness having different vantage points. And so when you are in a human to human relationship, that is another aperture to understand the experience of evolution, the experience of experience, if you really want to go into the most metaphysical explanation. But yeah, and at an even more practical level, since we're talking about this, I think I love to mention that, the people that you surround yourself with that stretch you in some way is so important. It's so important, because that saying, you are the sum of the people that you spend the most time with, is very, very true. Because they're going to ask things of you. They're going to ask you to look at yourself. They're going to challenge you. And they're going to uplift you too. Like being around people that see your potential, that see who it is that you really are, even sometimes when you don't yet see it. like, oh my gosh, those are my favorite friendships and
Mhm.
relationships, is when they can reflect back to you, not just where you're not seeing your limitation, but where you're not seeing your greatness, your bigness, your
Mhm.
brightness. And then you're like, oh shit, like
Yeah.
maybe
Yeah.
you're right. And I haven't been honoring myself in that way. And having those relationships around you, especially your romantic relationship, is just, it's so important. It should add to your life. That
Totally.
for me, when I was met my husband, I was just out of a rather karmic relationship,
Ooh.
which we'll talk about. But it was so interesting that within, I think it was a week or two max, of finally, truly, energetically exiting that karmic
Mhm.
relationship, I met Jordan, and the person that you're not, I won't say meant to be with, but the person that could be the most interesting person to be with is a lot of times not what you plan for.
Mhm.
And that's because I think the analytical mind is, it's looking for what's known, and what has been known is not necessarily what's in your best future interest.
Yeah.
So that's another little seed I'll plant, is be
Yeah.
prepared for the unknown.
Totally. It's not necessarily the purest iteration of love is what we've,
Yeah.
experienced in childhood, what we've derived meaning from. Like, and I'm excited to get into more of these, like trauma bond versus twin flame, all the different ways of relating, because most of us will find ourselves in multiple, if not all of these dynamics between like trauma bond, karmic relationship, soulmate, twin flames. Like we'll find ourselves questioning, like, is that this or is it this? And I
Mm.
think
Mhm.
getting clarity on, well, that's always going to be a discernment in your own body, but,
Yeah.
at least just getting some more experiential, anecdotal evidence of what it could feel like, what it should feel like to be entering into any one of these relational dynamics can be helpful.
Let's just go there.
Yeah.
So maybe, and I love starting with definitions, because
Mhm.
I think it's important, to define, so that we kind of know what we're talking about, and then we can
Mhm.
get into the layers of what it may mean in relationship to other topics. But in your mind, Kat, what is a trauma bond relationship?
Mm. Yeah, like every partnership I was in for a really long time.
Same.
Um, so for me, the way I understand it and the way I've experienced it is that a bond essentially reflects back to you the your subconscious definition and embodiment of love. So let's say I categorized love or felt love as a young person in some sort of toxic unfolding. I derived meaning that way. So then I find the perfect puzzle piece as an adult who recreates that feeling of familiarity. So, for example, how that looked in me is finding a dynamic that was like anxious and avoidant. I would
Hmm.
create this perfect puzzle piece situation of like this other person pulls away and then I'm chasing, and it creates this unsettled, anxious, high cortisol connection that is also easily mistaken for chemistry and fireworks. Like often trauma bonds, when you first meet, I was talking about this with my girlfriend the other day. We're like, if the first date is explosive and you're like, when you can't stop making out and you're just like, this is it, most likely trauma bond,
Red flag,
Yeah,
unfortunately.
unfortunately, probably not it. But
Yeah.
when, it's hard to believe that when you're in it because it feels so
Yeah.
familiar. It's just it's what you've known for your whole life, and despite it being whether like unhealthy, toxic, however you want to categorize it, it's what we know. So we are drawn to that as, again, this puzzle piece. And so for me, in my experience, being able to really come back to that relationship with self and develop that foundation of self-love and what does pure love, what does a healthy, loving relationship feel like in my body? Getting clear on that before entering like a dynamic and taking that with me into every dynamic that I enter, and really being in my body of like, am I anxious? Am I unable to eat or sleep? Red flags,
Mm, red
not
flag.
not sustainable,
You
not
should
your
just call
person.
this episode Red Flag.
Yeah, totally.
No, we'll get into
Yeah,
some more optimistic stuff, I promise.
we will. But also it's like being able to identify when you're in a trauma bond, so
Yeah.
valuable. And I think you see it, like you see it. I see it in some girlfriends who, you keep calling back the same kind of person. And it's like,
Mhm.
even if you end it with somebody or it ends, unless you do that healing, you'll call back the same puzzle piece, the same unavailable
Yeah.
man, the same whatever the dynamic is, because again, it's our subconscious looking for what we know to be true.
Mhm. Oh my gosh, great definition. If you grew up with emotionally unavailable parents,
Mhm.
where they just weren't tapped in emotionally, in whatever way, then this is just another example, then being in a relationship with somebody who's also emotionally unavailable can feel like safety. And
Mhm.
it's because, the brain is wired for the past in order to predict the future. And so if you've been wired to believe that love looks a certain way, and to your point, have not spent the time and done the work to, first of all, even bring awareness to that pattern. That's the
Mhm.
hardest part. Most of us are not aware of where we have built those patterns and made those our belief system of like, this is what's good and this is what's
Mhm.
safe. And even things that are unsafe, might there's a whole another way to looking at that. So that's why doing the work is so important. And when we say doing the work, that means all of the things that may be relevant to you and your healing and your understanding of your patterns, yourself, but ultimately being able to sit with yourself, I think, in meditation.
Mhm.
A lot of these elements will come up and they stretch usually beyond this lifetime. That's the other thing that doesn't get talked about too much, which we will get into,
Mhm.
is that these patterns sometimes and a lot of times are not just limited to the relationships in this lifetime. They are echoes of other times and spaces and patterns. And so if you really expand this out even further, open the aperture a bit more, then what we're talking about in trauma bonding is really karmic relationships.
Mhm.
And to talk about karma, I think it's really good to take a moment. And what is karma? I mean, a lot of times you hear the wheel of karma. What is a wheel? It keeps on going around and around and around and around, right? Until there's balance. And so my favorite definition of karma is simply balance. It's
Mhm.
a balance sheet. There's no judgment. There is no, oh man, you messed up in that lifetime. You're gonna pay for it now. Like that's I think a unfortunate misunderstanding of
Mhm.
karma. There is no judgment. There is no getting it right or wrong. There is balance, though. There is balance. There is that realization of your relationship with life, which is that you are it and it is you. And so that requires balance. And when we talk about karmic relationships, maybe we can get into this. So those are relationships, in my opinion, that have unresolved, out of balance energies
Mhm.
from other times and spaces that have come into this time and space to finally find that balance. And this can be so broad and so narrow. It can be so small and it can be so big. It can be nations, it can be your relationship with a tree outside of your house. It's so all encompassing. I think a lot of times we don't realize it, but I don't say that to like daunt everybody. It's a
Mhm.
lot to take in. But the biggest, easiest way for us to understand karma is through a relationship with the self and with others.
Mhm.
So I know for me, I've certainly been a part of karmic relationships that finally found balance in this lifetime. And I'm quite proud of that.
Yeah.
Like, we may not be together, but damn, we figured out some stuff, and this balance can be found in your day-to-day life. It can be found in the dream state. You can work out these energetics. It can be metaphysical. It can be outside of your body. There's all of the ways that we are interdimensional are ways that you can find this balance and this reclamation of balance in your life and in your relationships. So that's kind of how I think of karmic relationships. How about you, Kat? Curious what you think.
Yeah. No, I think that is really interesting and helpful to think about when you're thinking about karmic relationships. And I guess the way I typically think about them, and then again in my own experiences, is like they are specific. They're specifically manifested to teach you a specific lesson. And another way I kind of look at that is, for example, let's say in your lineage, there's a pattern of a certain relational dynamic between of the feminine. Like I have a girlfriend, for example, who in her lineage, there's been a specific pattern between feminine and masculine where the masculine abandons the woman, the feminine. And watching that be replayed. And so I think of the karmic relationship, for example, is the opportunity for like lineages to be broken, like a pattern to
Hmm.
be broken. For example, like in for the specific friend, it's her choice and her soul's, it's up to her free will ultimately whether she breaks that pattern, whether
Hmm.
she does the healing to change that pattern. And the person that she's with at any given moment, but like for example with her current partnership, it's very clear that this is that karmic pattern being replayed. And there are two
Hmm.
timelines that could come from whatever happens next, right? And it's been interesting to observe as an outsider because I think so much, I mean, of relational dynamics, but especially in these karmic relationships where there's a deep lesson to be learned. So much of what's going on is so deeply embedded in our subconscious that
Hmm.
I can see how the ego comes in and does everything it can to protect you from the pain and unfamiliarity of breaking that karmic path, of that karmic
Hmm.
learning. So I I think and what I've observed and what I've experienced is that often karmic relationships are painful. They because there's such a learning, a specific lesson that needs to come to light. There's often pain associated with that. Um, they can often be tumultuous, and not always are they meant to last. I feel like frequently they're not necessarily meant to last because
Hmm.
their specific purpose is, are you willing to learn this lesson and heal and up-level into a new iteration of relating.
Yeah, that's a really good way. It's a really good way to define it. And I think what you're pointing to is so important. And it's not just the here and now relationships. Like there's
Mhm.
these, like we were saying, like these echoes across
Mhm.
space and time
Mhm.
and lineages and soul families,
Mhm.
groups of souls that have decided to experience something and understand something better, and to put the mirror up and see, wait, who are we really? What are we really? What are we capable of? What is, and this goes back to the ultimate question, is like, why are we here?
Mhm.
You know?
Mhm.
And really we're here to experience.
Mhm. To
That's
evolve.
it. To
Mhm.
evolve. And one of the ways we do that is through these types of experiences and agreements. And it's interesting to think that there's lineages upon lineages, thousands, you could, if you want to put it in linear time, thousands of years of a pattern.
Mhm.
I mean, that's huge as far as the momentum of experience that points to. The
Mhm.
momentum is massive in some of these patterns, and we are seeing them playing out right now
Mhm.
across the globe, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
That's that's karma. That's something's not in balance yet. Something hasn't been understood yet for what it really is, the truth of it. And
Mhm.
so that pattern is going to continue to play out until we see it, until we understand it, and until we start to choose ourselves
Mhm. Yeah, and
and see ourselves.
I think another telltale sign of karmic relationships is there's often like the pattern plays out, you break up, you come back together, you play it out again. There's this like repetition involved.
Oh,
And I think that's
exhausting.
totally so exhausting. And I think that's an easy way to kind of self-inquire of like, okay, if there's a clear pattern, what what frequency or what, state of being, what embodiment would be the antidote to this pattern? What would
Hmm.
communicate something different to the universe and my worth and what I'm willing to accept in partnership?
Hmm.
What is almost like the opposite to create that balance? Like what's the
Yeah,
opposite relational pattern that I
that's
can choose?
yeah, that's the balance. That's the coming into, that's the breaking of the karmic pattern, is that
Mhm.
moment when you choose something new and you can feel it in your
Mhm.
energy. You
Mhm.
can, I'll give you an example of when I had many of these moments. When I could feel the karma, I could feel the balance come into the experience. And how do I want to say this? And spoiler alert, it's never about the other person.
Mm, mhm.
It's never about the other person. It's always about something that shifts in you.
Mhm.
And it just happens if you allow it to happen and you're doing the
Mhm.
work. And I think a majority of the time there's two components that break these karmic relationships. One of them is you stepping into who it is that you truly are, because you have
Mhm.
been self-abandoning in some way.
Mhm.
You've not been claiming your power, your who it is that you are, this interdimensional light being. I mean, at the most expansive levels, there's something usually, if not every single time, that I had not claimed for myself.
Mhm.
You claim that, the energetic shift, even
Mhm.
if you're not in the space and like the physical space of the other person, they will feel it
Mhm.
because that is a quantum jump. It's a permanent frequency shift when you go from believing to knowing something
Mhm.
about yourself.
Mhm.
And then the other component, in my mind at least, is forgiveness.
Mhm.
And I think we have done a whole episode
Mhm.
on forgiveness as a whole, because it's such a massive topic. And of course, it comes into karmic relationships, but it's forgiveness um, for yourself and forgiveness for others. And it's not condoning. You can always listen back to that episode, but it's a releasing yourself from the tethers of that karmic energy so that
Mhm.
you can move forward. But why don't we get into twin flames?
Yeah. Okay.
So this is a little bit of a right hand turn. Is there anything else you want to say about karmic relationships? Because I feel like we
Um,
could do the whole episode on that.
I know we could. No, I think the only thing I also want to say or add is similarly, like you're pointing to, when you move from belief to knowing, it's such a clear quantum leap, and
Hmm.
that in of itself is a clear feeling that you can bookmark when you declare something and you finally break that karmic cord. I remember what a clear dynamic where I was given the opportunity. And that's also, I think, to your point, a way to reorient around those dynamics instead of like blaming this person for
Oh yeah.
playing the same role, for being the villain. It's like, thank you for finally being the one to get me to the point of breaking this.
Yes.
And
Such a gift. It really
such a
is.
gift. Yeah. And look back on those specific people that were essentially soul contracts
Hmm.
that we agreed that we'd be together for this amount of time. You would teach me this. And but this specific dynamic, I reached that point where it finally became clear, finally declared, broke this karmic pattern, learned the lesson, and 4 days later met Nathan, called Nathan into my life.
Was that
And
your experience too?
yeah, yeah.
Oh, that's so interesting. We had such a similar experience.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people do experience that when you finally
You finally do it.
yeah, and especially if you've been entrenched in the same, pattern for so long, when you finally do, it's so powerful.
Oh,
It's a
yeah.
quantum leap. Like within days, weeks, you see the shift in your reality, whether I mean as per this conversation, calling in the person who is a completely different experience of love and relationship than what you've known.
Hmm.
And you're like, this, I mean, I know this existed because it was a part of getting to the point of finally breaking this karmic pattern was like embodying that frequency, but it actually does. It's here.
Hmm.
It's truly a beautiful experience. And so it's a, it's one of the experiences and feelings that is so bookmarked in my body of like,
Same. Yeah.
this is how you know when you've had such a huge breakthrough out of your like subconscious patterns and karmic behavior
Hmm.
into highest iteration of self and true love and like pure love iteration of self.
It feels so good. That's
Mhm.
something to look forward to, and it's both subtle, but it's profound. It's clear. It's it just feels very stable within you.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like you put one of the bricks of the foundation back in, and
Mhm.
it's just like, ah, oh.
Mhm. Yeah, and for me it feels like this like burst of energy or power, like a
Mm,
starburst of just
power. Yeah.
like I know my truth. I know what I will create in love and relationship. And so I declare, you know?
I declare.
Mhm.
Yeah. Your worthiness, your power.
Mhm.
That has to come first before the partner does.
Totally. Yeah, and I think that's what's so backwards in our society
Hmm.
around love and relationship and the conversation of self-love. It's like so many of us are programmed to believe that when we call in the person, then the self-love is secondary, is sequential to that, but it's all
Hmm.
backwards. We have it all
I
backwards.
mean, and it's in the past, even 100 years ago, that was so the messaging. It was just like, you gotta, especially for women, It was
Mhm.
like, find a partner at all cost. Your needs are beyond secondary. They're like tertiary.
Mhm.
And the only needs that really matter are the masculines.
Mhm.
And you're incredibly lucky if you have the autonomy and the sovereignty to be able to create a life for yourself first. And
Mhm.
so we're really in a time, except for those badass, courageous women of the past, where, especially as women, I think, you have to create that space because we're also all breaking that pattern
Mhm.
of relinquishing our sovereignty, of being secondary, of being tertiary, and really allowing the true feminine power to come into this world right now, because
Mhm.
that's what happens when we contend to the inner relationship first. The outer relationships follow.
Mhm.
And really, that's still at play back then as well, but within the limitations of the time, really, in the society. So, how cool that we have that opportunity now. And so, we better pay that pattern breaking respect in
Mhm.
our own ways, right?
Yeah, it's very
Of
true.
like, you're out of that pattern now. What are we going to do with it? And I
Mhm.
think that's exciting. It's what we're going to do with it. So, twin flames. I'll punt this one over to you, Kat. What do you
Yeah.
think a twin flame is?
Well, it's interesting because I was referencing a few different sources before we recorded this podcast because I have my own, understanding and experience, and I'm curious what the rhetoric does about it. And it seems
Mm,
to be quite divisive in that,
I noticed that. Yeah.
yeah,
I
in
was
that
like,
there's a narrative, or I guess interpretation around twin flames, that if this is the same soul having been split, then the foundational truth to that is that I am not whole, which I don't believe, right?
mm,
I don't necessarily back. So I think that's where it becomes divisive, and also there can be this frenzy around finding or calling in your twin flame in this lifetime, and also outsourcing to any given dynamic if we do believe that it's our twin flame, to the point where we will self-abandon or dismiss any, you know to our previous conversation, like what we know to be what we're worth or what we deserve. We'll dismiss that because we believe it's our twin flame, and that is this, pedestalized union or
mm.
dynamic in, I think the spirituality, like, world. So yeah, it was interesting to kind of assess all of that information. What I've arrived at and what I have felt, what feels true for me, is that a twin flame perhaps is a soul with a similar, if not the same frequency as your soul, or like created from the same, I guess, consciousness, but all souls are.
Like a soul family.
Yeah. But even more, because I think soul family is also like soulmate. They're people who you experience different lives with in different forms. Maybe your husband, your dad, your sister, your close friend, whatever. Those are, the people who are meant to walk next to you in your life. And twin flame is this very specific, again, the rhetoric says same soul, two bodies. And in that, I think there's an opportunity to reorient around that, is like this specific person is placed on your path to bring you actually back into complete wholeness with yourself. Kind of flip that narrative of like, you're not whole without this other person, without this other soul. flip it around, and the purpose of coming into union is actually to remind you of your wholeness. And this dynamic, this coming into union with this person, plays that specific role. And it's big, it's powerful, it's a remembering of sorts when you do encounter them. And you're not necessarily meant to end up with them. They might not be your, romantic partner that lasts the test of time. They might be this, flame that comes into your life and is a vivid mirror of and opportunity and catalyst to come back into wholeness with self. That's kind of my interpretation. What's yours?
Yeah, I like that a lot. And I was kind of surprised to see how divisive it is of a topic, which is interesting in and of itself to me. I wonder why that is, that the twin flame is such a divisive topic. I'm not quite sure, but it seems like when you have really powerful experiences in relationships, there's an understandable desire to explain, where did that power come from? How can I explain this really palpable recognition of something in someone that I shouldn't really have experienced or haven't really experienced with somebody else? So people are seeking an answer to that question of like, holy smokes, I met somebody. It felt like I've known them before. It felt like I was seeing me in another form. It felt like, oh my gosh, this is the missing piece. This is it. This is the missing piece. And so I agree with you that something about that seems off, and I don't come for me, but something about that seems off to me, because if you're having that big of a reaction to wholeness, we'll just like keep it really meta for a moment, that something's missing and you found it. That speaks to me about something a little bit different here, which is that for whatever reason, you haven't yet recognized that in it yourself, and it is always available. It doesn't go anywhere and then come back later. Like, wholeness is wholeness, and it is always accessible right now because that's who you are. You're just not seeing it. So we can talk about that then. Like, you're not seeing it. Why are you not seeing it? The aperture of your awareness is too narrow so that you're not seeing your wholeness. So you meet someone, and for a moment, they allow you, for whatever reason, to open that aperture of your awareness a bit more. And you're like, holy shit, I'm seeing it. I'm finally seeing it. And so I think we can look at those people, those relationships, as a great gift, that they're giving you the gift of helping you to open your aperture of your awareness that you might not even be conscious of. That's what's actually happening. So they're like a walking activation for you. And I'm not saying that's not a gift and that's not powerful, because it is. But I also want to remind everyone that you can have that twin flame type of experience in your meditation tomorrow.
Yeah, interesting.
And then I'm curious about this definition of soul as well, because we're talking about a soul fracture. And this is my understanding, take it or leave it. But I see the soul as this amorphous sphere of slightly condensed energy from source. And then within this sphere, this soul, there's concentrations of focus within it, all these different fractals and concentrations. And those are incarnations, those are lifetimes. And across all space and time, into the point to where that sphere, that soul, is complete with its experience. And then, so there's levels of differentiation in consciousness. And so the soul is just one of those levels of differentiation. And then there's incarnations, which are another level of differentiation. And so it could be possible that that focus has been placed in the same time, 2 different lives, walking the planet. I think that seems, from my understanding of soul, plausible. But I would, from the desire of the soul is experience. So if it's fractured itself into, let's just say, 2 incarnations on the planet at the same time, but also across all space and time, because time's a construct and it's all happening right now anyways.
We have an episode on that.
Yeah, we're fitting a lot into this.
Yeah.
So it seems plausible that that could be the case. But the reason that I would be surprised if those, we'll call them lifelines, intersect, because if the soul is a differentiation of consciousness, it really is not going to experience as much if it has its own fractals intersect. I mean, maybe, I could be wrong there. So I think it's possible, but, and maybe, now that I think about it, maybe that is a way to experience, is with its own differentiation fractals looking at each other. It's interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I've shared this with you, but I went to a energetic therapist, spiritual therapist. She tunes into your energetic field, taps into your aura, accesses the information in your field to guide you from there as you share whatever it is that you're, sharing with her in that session. And I only saw her a few times, but one of the sessions I was sharing about a specific relationship that I'd been in on and off for a really long time. And I'm sharing different experiences about it. And she, stops me from talking and is like, "Oh, I'm seeing that this person is your twin flame." And I remember, well, a couple of things. I remember her telling me that, using that as this validation, like I mentioned at the beginning, to keep going back, to keep accepting whatever the dynamic was that, so less than what I know I deserve. And I remember using that as this rationalization to be in something, because I was like, "Oh, well, it's my twin flame."
Oh, interesting. So the label or the terminology gave it validation as like an important relationship.
Right. This is the relationship that no matter what, I will make work, because it's my twin flame and it's meant to be, right? And so that's where I think twin flame can be weaponized in a way.
Yeah.
I think it really is a discernment of whether, because I don't necessarily not believe that he was my twin flame, although as I've moved through life and fallen in and out of love with other people, eventually, met my husband, married to my husband, who was not the same person who I was told was my twin flame. I do believe that if he was, twin flames also are not necessarily meant to be the forever relationship, or the relationship that, again, sustains the test of time. Although there is a deep remembering, there's this inarticulable desire to know this other person, despite also having a feeling of already knowing them. Despite that being there, it's not necessarily where we're meant to be forever. Again, I think it's, to my earlier definition. I think it's a radical it's a radical dynamic that brings singularity and union into the same field, where you, again, if you're two souls or the same soul fractaled into different incarnations, it's this coming back to union in self. It's like this choosing, despite, maybe recognizing the other soul so clearly, another iteration of self. It's the choosing of like, no, I'm also still whole, no matter what dynamic I'm in, no matter what relationship I'm in, I'm always whole.
Yeah.
So I think that's the lesson for a lot of people who might encounter their twin flame. It's like choosing wholeness
Ooh,
despite being told that this other person is the route to wholeness.
100% double click on that. That's really the slippery slope here when it comes to some of what we're talking about. And I think what I'm hoping is that we point you back to yourself
Mhm.
before the relationship, because that wholeness is yours. That is your truth.
Mhm.
And in relationships, and it makes so much sense why we're on this mission to find and to fix ourselves through relationships.
Mhm.
And unfortunately that's backwards, but it is an understandable pattern. And maybe that's the pattern of patterns here, is
Mhm.
looking to relationships for wholeness when really it's within you the whole
Mhm.
time.
Mhm.
And I do understand, because I have been in those relationships that feel like fire, and it feels like wholeness or being seen. But really, when I look back on it, it's because I wasn't seeing myself.
Mhm.
And the gift of that relationship was that realization, of having
Mhm.
that realization. And so the other thing I want to say here, just in relationships in general, is to really think about your nervous system. Is it able to find safety in your relationship?
Mhm.
Can you come down into the rest, digest, heal, relax, the foundations of safety in your relationships? Because when that's not true and you're constantly activated, you're constantly in this kind of scrambling state, that's you scrambling for your wholeness.
Mhm.
And so we really, really want to think about that too. What is the state your nervous system is in when you're in the contact with this twin flame?
Mhm. Yeah.
Are you able to find that nice, relaxed, safe space within yourself? And I think a lot of times the answer is probably no. But like you said, Kat, like I think this is so important, but it also came into your life for a reason.
Mhm.
And another thing that comes up a lot in this conversation is relationships that allow you to do the big work in that relationship.
Mhm.
And I've noticed that in conversation. And I always get a little, I can also hear this in family relationships. So like the family relationship is so strained, it's so intense, but I'm just going to put
Yeah.
everything into it because
Yeah.
that's where my work is supposed to be. And if I can't figure out this relationship with my mom or my dad or my sister, then something's wrong. And I also don't necessarily subscribe to that either,
Totally. Totally.
because what is a relationship? In the context of this three-dimensional world, it's
Mhm.
two different perspectives. And the other perspective not coming into your perspective is not your responsibility.
Mhm. Yeah, I feel like I've had a few people say to me, while they're clearly in, extremely tumultuous relationships, say, well, any soul level relationship, you're meant to traverse
Mhm.
pain. You're meant to traverse difficulty. And yes, 100%. Again, the relationships are a portal to deeper spiritual evolution, to seeing yourself more intimately, to coming home to self more wholly. And there has to be, like, the ratio should not be 90% of the time we're there, and 10% of the time we find ourselves in, harmony or peace, right? It like the ratio needs to be very clear that this is a part of the what I signed up for. Yes, but it's not
Yeah.
the whole dynamic. It's not the whole agreement.
There's free
Um,
will.
mhm, mhm. Yeah, and to your point about safety, I so clearly remember when I first met Nathan and we first started dating, and it was so clear that he was my husband, I was his wife, and I c the only way I could really articulate to him, like, how I know so wholly is it was a level of safety, a feeling of safety that I
Yeah.
had never experienced before, and I think especially as a woman, like, it's a very clear feeling, similar to what we were talking about earlier,
Mhm.
that feeling of, like, when you declare and finally break a karmic pattern, very distinct feeling. Same with when your body feels safe, when your nervous system feels safe, when you finally feel held in a container where you can truly blossom. Very specific feeling that until you feel it, you might be able to conceptualize how it feels, but you aren't, it's not something you can fully know until you feel it.
Yeah. It's so again, just two married ladies talking. But I 100% agree with you because and I really do wish I could bottle this and share it with everybody because you're totally right. Until you feel that, it's really it's really hard to describe, but it's such a safety. I think safety really is the best word
Mhm.
because safety implies not only a physical safety, it's an emotional safety. It's a spiritual safety. It's for me and in my marriage, it's so powerful because I'm not having to hide any aspect of myself.
Mhm.
And the aspects that maybe other people found to be um, worth hiding, this person finds delightful or
Mhm.
hilarious, or like
Yeah, the cutest thing
just
ever.
it's the cutest thing ever.
When you throw a temper tantrum about the dish
Yeah,
towel, they're, like, so
yeah,
cute.
it's so cute. I mean, gosh, I'll even share just a little personal story from today.
Yeah.
I was feeling a little not 100% today, and our cat was supposed to go to the vet, and I was across town, and I was going to be late, and all these things are happening at the same time. And my husband also has an insane schedule, and so I just asked. I said, if we might have to just cancel the vet visit, or I don't know, if by any chance you can handle it. And he just took it and run with it. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like, it's
Yeah,
the smallest thing,
totally.
but to have somebody, and this is we're speaking very practically here in 3 dimensional reality, to have somebody there that can just like they've got your back,
Mhm.
in the physical world, and for me and Jordan specifically, it's kind of cool because in meditation, actually, this was ayahuasca. He saw for us and our relationship that I was like at the center of this circle, like in a video game. I don't know all the video game terms, so you can drop them
Me
in the
neither.
comments. But I'm doing all this kind of light stuff in the center of the circle, and he's working the perimeter, and he's like protecting, like
Oh,
he's the like management, like around the perimeter,
such a potent visualization of
right?
masculine, feminine.
Right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
and, like,
yeah,
in union in that way. Yeah.
yeah. And that's for me. I thought it'd be fun just to kind of share that little tidbit about the relationship because it felt very true. And it just speaks to that safety on another level of like, man, this person, he's like working the perimeter of life so that I can do what I need to do
Mhm. Mhm.
energetically, physically, all of the things. And that's what I needed in this lifetime.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so being able to recognize that is and experience it is like, chef's kiss. You're so
Yeah.
grateful.
So beautiful. And I think you feel that when you collide with that person, it's like you get to play because you there's a specific role, right? Like you being in the center of that circle allows him to be on the perimeter, which is what his soul mission is to be in that
Yeah.
iteration of the masculine. So this union provides like the perfect role cast for each of you to reach your full potential. Like you, and it awakens different things within you. Like you being in the center of that circle awakens that desire to protect, and vice versa.
Mm.
Like him protecting awakens that desire to and capacity to, wield your feminine intuition and creative power. So it's such a beautiful dynamic when you do collide with that person that creates that amount of safety and unconditional, seeing.
Yeah.
And I truly believe that it is available for everyone. It is
Mhm.
everybody's birthright to experience that, to, collide with that person.
Yeah. They're out there for everybody. And
Mhm.
you find them when you find yourself.
Yeah, it's like the most cliche thing
I
ever. I
know,
feel
it's so cliche.
like every mom or aunt or whoever, like when you least need it, when you're most happy with your own life, that's when they'll show up and you're like, yeah,
Yep.
yeah, yeah, I'm doing those things, whatever. And it's so clear in hindsight. It's like when I was at my peak, just like, I'm a goddess. If they come, great. When they come, great. Until then,
Yep.
I'm a goddess. So,
Oh,
and
I had decided, I was like, I'd gotten to the place where I was like, I think I'm good.
yeah,
You know,
yeah,
like, I think I
totally.
could be fine without having a partner in this lifetime.
Yeah.
That's kind of, I mean, and I still feel that way. I mean, I love Jordan, but like at the end of the day, like I said, I really do believe that relationship with the self is the most important.
hmm
And
And
I'm incredibly grateful,
it can't
but
be
also I
faked.
could be fine and I would be fine.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think getting to that place can't be faked, which I think we see a lot of in
Yeah.
the self-love world. It's like, and I hear it with some of my girlfriends where it's like, no, I truly am like, I don't need it, or I don't,
But you
I don't
don't
care
really
about it.
believe it.
Right. But
Yeah.
it's like the universe doesn't speak language, it doesn't speak affirmations, it speaks frequency. And until you actually believe it and emanate that, then no matter how much you try and convince me or yourself or anyone that you do believe it, not, you'll still attract the same, most likely karmic pattern.
Mhm. Yeah, I think that's a great place to close too, is
Mhm.
that the universe doesn't speak language, it speaks frequency. And
Mhm.
that's such an important point. And that's why this work of consciousness really is the ultimate opportunity for each one of us.
Mhm.
Anything else you want to share today, Kat? I think we've covered so much.
Yeah, we have. And I mean, this will come out the day before Valentine's Day. So
Hmm.
I guess just to anyone listening, I want to say, you're loved, and
Mm.
despite whatever the external circumstances right now, single, partnered, in the middle of a dissolution of a partnership, love is available to you, and you are love. And this day isn't about, like,
100%.
Valentine's Day is not about any of the Hallmark things we've been sold. So you
No,
don't need to subscribe if you don't want.
absolutely not. But I love that. I love love. I love all
Mhm.
of you that are tuning in and doing this work and exploring yourself and contemplating and reflecting on existence. It's like my favorite thing. And so you're in the right place. You're with the right people. You are loved because you're whole. You're whole as you are right now in this moment. And I
Mhm.
totally agree with Kat on that. And speaking of wholeness and also community, we have a retreat coming up in April, end of April, and we have some spots left. It'll be a beautiful, absolutely gorgeous spot in Joshua Tree. We'll be doing this deep work for 4 days with an amazing group of people, meditating, Kriya, breath work, some surprises along the way. So if you're interested, check it out on our website, soulpodapp.com, or send us an email if you're interested, support@soulpodapp.com, and we can chat. Thank you so much, Kat. This was so fun today.
Yeah, totally.
Till next time. Thank you for journeying with us today, Light Being. We hope you enjoyed the episode. And before you go, we want to invite you to explore the SoulPod app, where you can immerse yourself in daily lessons, guided meditations, and breath work to develop a soul nourishing daily ritual and tune back into your own inner guidance system. You can download SoulPod in the App Store or directly from the show notes to start your free trial today and awaken the ancient wisdom within you.